Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be ranking every Kiss song credited to the original band, that being Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, Gene Simmons, and Paul Stanley. Let's just get this out of the way first. When I say credited to the original band, I'm also including Dynasty, Unmasked, and Psycho Circus songs here on this list as well. Even though Ace and Peter's involvement on those records are disputed, and in Peter's case, he didn't drum at all on the Unmasked album, nobody knew that at the time, so I'm looking at the entire history of the original lineup here, and everything that was credited to the original band at the time that it was released, because, quite frankly, after you get to a certain point in the band's history, trying to decipher which songs all four guys actually played on together gets pretty murky, but the way I'm ranking these songs here, if it was issued as Kiss and was credited to and advertised as the original four when it came out, then it counts for this list. There are 97 songs to go through here, so let's get started. Coming in last, my least favorite Kiss song of all time has got to be And Then She Kissed Me off the Love Gun record. It's the only blemish on my favorite Kiss album, and I just think Love Gun would have been much stronger had Plaster Caster been the album closer instead of this unnecessary and unremarkable cover here that is pretty out of character from the rest of the record. Number 96, Rock and Roll Party, the real final track from Destroyer. I've always kind of lumped this song in with Do You Love Me, but it is technically a standalone track, so I will count it here on this list at number 96. It's a short minute-and-a-half piece here by Bob Ezrin featuring the choir from Great Expectations. Number 95, Love Theme from Kiss from their debut album. Not bad by any means, just a harmless instrumental track, but really doesn't offer much else on their debut. Following that up now with number 94, we're going to go to the Unmasked album, and of course, the situation with Unmasked is that during this time period, Ace was pretty, disinterested with the whole recording process, and so was not very much present in the studio for Unmasked. In the case of Peter Criss, wasn't there at all, right? You have Anton Fig on the drums for this record, but like I said, if it was credited to the original four guys, it's going to be on this list, and so Unmasked was credited to all four of the original members, so that's why I'm including Unmasked stuff on this list, like I had talked about. Same thing with Dynasty and Psycho Circus, and the thing with Unmasked is, despite its faults, it's still full of some really solid deep cuts, but Easy as It Seemed is just pretty uninspired in my opinion, with lazy lyrics here, and, just a largely forgettable track, I think, with no upside. Number 93, We Are One from Psycho Circus. What a load of bull from a band who couldn't even record the album together. Way to lie to the fans. Wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't be the last. At number 92, we have Larger Than Life. Kiss recorded 5 studio tracks for side 4 of Alive 2, all of which will be included here on this list, but Larger Than Life is by far my least favorite of the bunch. The chorus just seems forced, and it just reeks of a Gene Simmons song that was deemed not strong enough for an actual album. 91, You're All That I Want from Unmasked, a true throwaway song here by Gene, and, I do like Unmasked. It definitely does have strong moments to it, despite being, an overhated album as far as I'm concerned, but with tracks like this, you can definitely see why, come 1980, people were opting to listen to, fast-rising new wave of British heavy metal bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and Saxon instead. Number 90, Any Way You Want It. No, not the Journey song, just a really forgettable filler track here by Paul Stanley to fill out side 4 of Alive 2. At 89, we have Tomorrow, a really poppy song here by Paul, and not nearly as strong as some of the obscure gems from Unmasked. At 88, we have Journey of a Thousand Years from Psycho Circus. Even the Psycho Circus comics are better than this. Back to Unmasked here for my number 87, we have Shandy, a big hit in Australia, notable for being the final appearance by Peter Criss in the band until 1996 and the making of the music video for this song, but personally, I never liked Shandy. It just reeks of Paul Stanley desperately trying to write a hit here, coming off of the immensely controversial and popular Dynasty album, so just, in my opinion, this song does nothing for me, and again, there are better songs on Unmasked that I'll get to in a little bit. 86, gonna go with Kissin' Time here from their debut album. In hopes of a single maybe bringing success to the band's debut, they covered Kissin' Time, originally by Bobby Rydell, and, an easy way to check, by the way, if your vinyl is a first pressing or not, fun fact, the first pressing does not include Kissin' Time, so that's just something you can check for, but, it's just an awkward cover here, and in my opinion, does not fit the band's style or the rest of this album. Next, we have 85 here. I'm gonna go with I Finally Found My Way from Psycho Circus. Definitely a forgotten track with Peter Criss on lead vocals here, written by Paul Stanley. The only problem is it sounds like the band were trying to capture another Beth or Hard Luck Woman here with Peter doing the whole ballad thing, and it just seems like paint by numbers Kiss with the band trying to check off, all of the boxes on Psycho Circus. At number 84, we have You Wanted the Best, a hilariously disingenuous track from Psycho Circus, but it's fun nonetheless with each member of the band getting a chance on lead vocals. Alice Cooper called, he wants his song back. Coming in at number 83, I'm going to go with Dreamin', a total ripoff of I'm 18 by Alice Cooper, but, the chorus is pretty powerful with some great vocals by Paul, and, it is strong enough considering it was mostly a filler track on Psycho Circus. Seems like the bottom of this list here is just mostly Unmasked and Psycho Circus stuff, which is funny because I do actually enjoy both of those albums in general, but that said, number 82 here on the list, let's go with What Makes the World Go Round, back to Unmasked. It's poppy with some disco elements, Paul still trying to write a hit over and over again, but it has its moments. This song is at least very catchy and a tune that gets stuck in my head from time to time. Kiss really didn't put their best foot forward with 4/5 of the studio tracks for Alive 2, so with that said, 81 here on the list is Rockin' in the USA. Not gonna lie, I've given those studio tracks a chance, but I usually just skip them with the exception of Rocket Ride. I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll at number 80 here on the list. It's Paul trying to write, a modern Kiss rock anthem here, but while it's still a fun listen, it just comes off as a forgettable throwaway song from Psycho Circus, which, again, more of Psycho Circus down towards the bottom of this list, even though, in general, it's a pretty fun album. 79, gonna go with All American Man. Not great, but probably the second best song from the 5 studio tracks on Alive 2. The lyrics sound like someone AI generating a Kiss song from this era, but it has this great thick bass line that really makes this track for me. For 78, I'm going to go with Raise Your Glasses from Psycho Circus. It's another attempt by Paul on writing, another feel-good anthem, but let's be honest, Paul Stanley is capable of much better. 77 is She's So European from Unmasked. This is a very Gene Simmons song. It's cheesy, but cheesy in a good way. Definitely a guilty pleasure Kiss song for me. 76, I'm going to go with Two Timer here. One of my least favorite songs from Dress to Kill, but still a good song. I like the vocal harmonies in the chorus between Gene and Paul, so, I do enjoy that aspect of it. Staying with the Dress to Kill album here for number 75, we have Getaway. Not my favorite Peter Criss sung track, but the lyrics are cool, I believe written by Ace Frehley, and, Peter does a good job here. It's definitely a simple, catchy song. Reminds me a little bit of Two Timer, but a little bit more upbeat. Number 74, Sweet Pain from Destroyer. Cool riff and dark lyrics on an upbeat tempo. Sweet Pain is definitely the runt of the litter from Destroyer, but underrated nonetheless. Number 73, Is That You, the unorthodox album opener here from Unmasked. Examining this record, I really shouldn't like Unmasked, but, I do, and I know that we're a far ways away from Destroyer at this point in terms of, the quality of this record, but Is That You, well, it doesn't have great lyrics. I find it to be, a fun song at its very worst, so it took me a while to warm up to it, but, it's pretty harmless, all things considered. For 72 now, I'm going to go with Let Me Know, a forgotten song from the band's debut album here. A decent song, definitely worth another listen, although it kind of exists in the shadows of massive tracks on here like Deuce, Cold Gin, Firehouse, etc., etc. 71, Ladies in Waiting. Not exactly some of Gene's best lyrics, but it keeps the flow going on Dress to Kill. All in all, a forgettable track, but not bad for a filler song. Number 70 here, we have All the Way, the first appearance by Hotter Than Hell on this list. Really forgotten song. For some reason, Gene's vocals give me Plaster Caster vibes, and just like Let Me Know, this is a song that's definitely worth another listen if you have not heard it in a while. Another solid tune here that nobody ever talks about. At 69, we have Torpedo Girl from Unmasked. This is one of those good, bad songs. I know it's not great, but I still like it anyway. So, I think it's a very solid Ace hidden gem here from Unmasked. Coming in at number 69 on the list, gotta go with Torpedo Girl. At 68, we're gonna go back to Dress to Kill here for Love Her All I Can. This song originates back in the Wicked Lester days, and most of Dress to Kill is pretty underappreciated, including this track. I think it has great drumming, and just in general, I always thought that the rhythm section on Dress to Kill was very tight. Another one from Dress to Kill here, coming in at number 67, we have Anything for My Baby. From the backing vocals here, you can definitely tell that it's very much inspired by early Beatles here, and they had a massive influence on all 4 guys, especially Gene, so really dig this track here. Peter's drumming sounds great in the mix. It's a forgotten gem from their sophomore album, no doubt. The weird thing about the Psycho Circus album is that depending on who you ask, Ace and Peter either weren't interested in playing on this album or weren't wanted in the studio. That said, my number 66, In Your Face, is a great track here from the Psycho Circus sessions that only made it on the Japanese release as a bonus track. This song definitely should have been on the main album as far as I'm concerned. It's textbook Ace Frehley here, and much better than songs like Raise Your Glasses or I Finally Found My Way. Number 65, let's go with Mainline, off of Hotter Than Hell, a song that in Paul Stanley's book he claims Peter Criss threatened to quit the band over if he couldn't sing lead vocals on it. I can't keep up anymore, man, but that autobiography was fantastic. The truth of the matter is, the truth around the original band probably lies somewhere in between all 4 of their autobiographies. Even so, Peter's vocals here really make it work. Shame it was only performed once on the Hotter Than Hell tour, and that was it. Coming in at number 64, let's go with Room Service off of Dress to Kill. I like the rawness of this track, and just in general, all of Dress to Kill is pretty raw, but this song is built on this great riff riff here, reminiscent of something that Chuck Berry would play, and Gene does a fantastic job here on backing vocals. 63, See You in Your Dreams from Rock and Roll Over. Paul Stanley actually made a really cool reference to this song at the final Kiss show at the end of the show, right before the reveal of the whole Avatar thing, and that happened. But, anyway, I won't get into that here. Great deep cut here, later re-recorded by Gene on his 1978 solo album, but I think the original is better, mainly because of Ace's solo, which is far superior. Number 62, let's go with Save Your Love, the weakest Ace Frehley song off of Dynasty, in my opinion. Ace rules this record, but Save Your Love is pretty formulaic, although I do really like the backing vocals on this track. 61, Great Expectations, one of the more forgotten songs from Destroyer, but a fine Gene song, and I really like the symphony added in the background as well. Number 60, let's go with Talk to Me from the Unmasked album by Ace Frehley. The lyrics are pretty weak, Kiss were at an all-time low in the songwriting department around the time of Unmasked, but it's still a really fun Ace Frehley deep cut here. The chorus is a bit repetitive, but I think it's very memorable, and hands down, one of my favorite lesser talked about Ace Frehley tracks. 59, gonna go with Love 'Em, Leave 'Em from Rock and Roll Over, underrated Ace Frehley guitar solo here, and just in general, a very overlooked song from this album. At number 58, we have Two Sides of the Coin. Choose one. Again, the lyrics here aren't great, but it's another really fun song here. Poppy, I guess, a great rocker here by Ace Frehley that I wish he would do live again. This one might be an unpopular opinion. I'm not really sure how people are going to feel about this, but coming in at number 57, I'm going to go with I Was Made for Lovin' You from Dynasty. Some might have it ranked higher, but I really have never been a huge fan of this track. I think it's overplayed, and I probably never need to hear it again, but maybe I've just heard it one too many times. Kiss going disco definitely alienated their fans, and this track just reeks of a sellout, so in my opinion, it's one of the weaker songs from Dynasty, but it was the lead single. It was, the driving force behind this record, the band going disco with this lead single, so some may have it ranked higher, some may have a different opinion on it than me, but for me personally, never been a huge fan of this song. I think it's just kind of middle of the road. 56, let's go with Naked City. Such an overlooked gem here from Unmasked by Gene Simmons. It has this great bass riff that really does carry the entire song. Pretty predictable lyrics here by Gene, but the bass, like I said, really does carry this track, which is a total earworm. Number 55, let's go with It's My Life. Another hidden gem here from the Psycho Circus sessions that did not make the record, written by Ace Frehley. Just like with In Your Face, I think, Gene, Paul, and producer Bruce Fairbairn have a lot of explaining to do as to why this didn't make the album. 54, gotta go with X-Ray Eyes here from Dynasty. Decent Gene song. Pretty crazy how, by Dynasty, Gene kind of took a backseat to Ace in the songwriting department, but X-Ray Eyes is pretty much what you'd expect from Gene Simmons here. Dynasty gets a lot of hate, but for me, what makes this album are deeper cuts like this one, like Hard Times, like Dirty Livin', etc. So, solid stuff here in my opinion. Great deep cut, one of the lesser talked about tracks from Dynasty, so good stuff all around here by Gene. Gonna stick with another Gene Simmons track here from number 53. Let's go with Within off the Psycho Circus album. Really ominous sounding song, which I believe was originally demoed during the Carnival of Souls sessions, but finally saw the light of day on Psycho Circus. Solid work all around here by Gene, in my opinion, and really being able to tap into his demon persona lyrically for the first time in many years. Number 52, Coming Home from Hotter Than Hell. No doubt the best version of this track is from their MTV Unplugged performance, but the Hotter Than Hell version is great as well, and that whole album is interesting because it definitely showed a different side of the band compared to their debut, with some softer songs like Going Blind and Coming Home. 51, how about Mr. Speed from Rock and Roll Over? This song absolutely should have been played live during the band's heyday. The harmonies on this track are great, and it's structured really nicely as well. Another one here from Rock and Roll Over, coming in at number 50, cracking the top 50 now. I'm going to go with Ladies' Room. Absurd lyrics, but a really fun song at the same time, and the version from Alive 2 is incredible. At 49, let's go with Sure Know Something, a song that I kind of refer to as 70s roller rink type music. It's pretty similar, in my opinion, to I Was Made for Lovin' You, in the sense that it's the band continuing to try a more disco sound. It's definitely not bad by any means, but I think there are a lot better, stronger, more upbeat rocker type tracks on this album that I gravitate towards just a little bit more, but had to put it in the top 50 anyway. Coming in at number 49, gotta go with Sure Know Something. 48, Tomorrow and Tonight from Love Gun. Very catchy era of a track here from my favorite Kiss album, and the chorus of the song never fails to get stuck in my head. Number 47, let's go with the title track, II Psycho Circus. Really infectious song here with Paul Stanley on lead vocals. Definitely works as the album opener here. Really clean, powerful vocals by Paul Stanley that make this song for me, and of course it's become a live staple since its release. So coming in at number 47 here, gonna go with Psycho Circus. At number 46, let's go with Almost Human from Love Gun. There are several Gene Simmons songs in the Kiss catalog that really define the demon character, and this is definitely one of them. Gene sounds possessed on lead vocals, and while it's not quite God of Thunder or Calling Dr. Love, love. It's a really ominous sounding track with a great deep bass line. Another one from Love Gun here at 45, gonna go with Got Love for Sale. I remember when I was first getting into Kiss, trying to memorize all the songs off of Love Gun, and the song just getting stuck in my head over and over again. Ace's solo is amazing, and it's a great showcase for Gene's vocals as well. 44, gonna go with Take Me from Rock and Roll Over. This song is a great example of some of the stuff that I love about this album. It's the definition of keep it simple, stupid, if that is indeed what Kiss stands for, but, this is just the band, their instruments and amps, no outside strings, pianos, or symphonies, so very raw sounding record, right? And Take Me, again, great example of that, like I said. Just a straightforward rocker, quintessential 70s Kiss for sure. At 43, we're gonna go back to Dress to Kill now for Come On and Love Me. This song, I think, definitely aged really well musically from Dress to Kill. It's a rocker of a track here with a great groove laid down by Peter Criss on the drums. Also worth checking out is Skid Row's cover here on B-Side Ourselves, the EP. So really solid stuff here, and definitely an influential song as well, as it was covered years later. For number 42, I'm going with Baby Driver off of Rock and Roll Over. What an underappreciated Peter Criss sung track here, and this is for everybody who says Peter Criss couldn't sing. He had a great rock and roll voice on display here on this song. Great groove to it as well, so it's a really fantastic song that I enjoy quite a bit. One of my favorites from Rock and Roll Over. Magic Touch coming in at number 41 here on the list. My favorite Paul Stanley song from Dynasty. I love the heaviness of this track, especially on the guitars, and the bridge is great too. Really killer deep cut here by Paul. Another one now from Dynasty for number 40. Gotta go with Charisma. Deep bass line on here by Gene Simmons. It definitely does mark an atmosphere change on the album. Very catchy song with cool effects. Leave it to Ace Frehley to have the best song on Psycho Circus. Coming in at number 39, let's go with Into the Void. Really, great song here by Ace. It doesn't get talked about pretty much ever, Definitely captures a really spacey feel to it. I think Ace's vocals are very underrated here as well. Very clean sounding, and it's just a trippy sounding track altogether. But if you remember from Kiss Meets the Phantom, his trip's a trap. 38, gonna go with Watchin' You. Love this song. I think the version on Alive is super aggressive, and the guitar riff is killer. Plus, if you haven't heard the Eddie Kramer demo from the really early days of Kiss, it's definitely worth checking out to hear an even better version of this song, in my opinion. Number 37, Hard Times, has a great driving chorus that I gravitate towards. Ace Frehley carried Dynasty. This is another great Ace cut from the album. 36, Plaster Caster is another song that I could argue the best version of this track comes from Kiss's Unplugged performance, but the Love Gun version is fantastic as well. The melody is awesome, and the solo by Ace is tight and concise, but still hard-hitting. 35, gonna go with Got to Choose. Looking past the rough production on Hotter Than Hell, this track is absolutely killer, featured on Alive as well. I love the chorus and Ace's solo, and just overall an excellent way for the band to kick off their sophomore album. At 34, I'm going with Hooligan from Love Gun. Underrated deep cut here from Peter Criss, and we love the cat on this channel. Really clever lyrics here by Peter Criss. Very fun song, and I'll never not be entertained by this track. So it's an absolute gem, I think, from Love Gun, and a song from Peter that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as it should. 33, Rock Bottom from Dress to Kill. Kickstarted with that instantly recognizable guitar intro. Really hypnotic stuff for the first minute and a half before it really picks up. So Rock Bottom is one of Ace's smoothest performances on lead, and the chorus hits pretty hard as well. Next up, we have 10,000 Years from the band's debut album. Peter Criss's drumming is absolutely on point here, and as for Ace's guitar work, I've heard a lot of people talk about how difficult that solo is to play, so definitely not an easy song to perform, and can be a bit sloppy live sometimes, but a definite high point from their nearly perfect debut album. Christine 16 comes in at number 31 here on the list from Love Gun, a classic Gene song that absolutely would not fly today. The lyrics, questionable, but the rest of the song is fantastic, from the melody to the riff, and a great solo. And at number 30, we're going to go back to Dynasty here for 2000 Man. 2000! Great song here. This is Ace covering the Rolling Stones. 2000 Man is a great track, one of my favorites from their Satanic Majesty's request, and so Ace's version here, though, is a million times better, and would, of course, become a live staple for Ace even to this very day, so great stuff, and really interesting how Ace reworked this song to fit the Kiss sound, and really one of the best from Dynasty. You can run, you can hide, but you'll never get away from my number 29, I Want You from Rock and Roll Over. It starts off acoustically before picking up in a major way. The song builds to that first I Want You in the first 30 seconds, and it's just awesome. Great way to kick off Rock and Roll Over. Gonna go with an anthemic track from Destroyer here at my number 28, that's Shouted Out Loud. From the instantly recognizable wailing guitar intro to the fun lyrics from Paul and Gene. When Paul Stanley says Kiss lyrics are about self-empowerment and rock and roll fun, this is the kind of track that he's talking about. Just great stuff here, very memorable from Destroyer. I'm gonna go with the classic acoustic ballad written by Paul Stanley for Peter Criss for number 27, that being Hard Luck Woman. I don't think anybody could have pulled this off except for Peter Criss on lead vocals. His raspy voice just fits so well here. One of my favorite softer tracks from the original band, so great stuff here by Peter on lead vocals, but written by Paul Stanley. Could Paul have sung this track? Absolutely. Would it have been a hit? Probably as well. Yes, but I think with Peter Criss on lead vocals, it adds a different element to this track that makes it so, fantastic and such a standout, I think, from Rock and Roll Over. 26 is going to be Rocket Ride from Alive 2. The rest of the studio tracks from Alive 2, not so great, but Rocket Ride is a bona fide classic here. Ace kills it. The riff is phenomenal, and it's another masterclass from the Paul Daniel Frehley school of falling backwards into an amazing song and a ripping solo. Number 25 is going to be Flaming Youth from Destroyer. I wish this song got more love from the band and attention on Destroyer as well. Absolutely deserves to be up there with the likes of Shout It Out Loud and King of the Nighttime World. On top of that, I think Destroyer is masterfully produced by Bob Ezrin, and this is one of the best sounding songs on the record. Another one from Destroyer now, another classic Kiss ballad with Peter Criss on lead vocals here. Coming in at number 24, of course, I'm talking about Beth. I mean, the symphony added in the background adds such a great touch to this track, and, similar to what I was talking about with Hard Luck Woman, I don't think anybody could have pulled this song off like Peter Criss, although Eric Carr does have a really solid version from Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits too. 23, Makin' Love is a great album closer here to Rock and Roll Over, a fast-paced rocker, and a song that I was surprised to hear at their final concert that I attended because I didn't think it was a part of their regular set list going into that concert last I checked, so very fun song, happy to have heard it live, and, of course, the studio version here has just a downright vicious, brutal guitar solo by Ace Frehley. A lot of people wouldn't have this next song ranked so high, but for me, it's the best song on Dynasty, and that's Dirty Livin' by Peter Criss here at number 22. Peter absolutely kills it here, and only gets one track on the album, but absolutely makes the most of it. It almost sounds like an extension of Peter's solo album, which, unpopular opinion, is my second favorite of the Kiss 78 solo albums, just behind Ace's, but it's a great deep cut and a really underrated Peter Criss song for sure. It's groovy and definitely different from the other songs here on this record. I'm going to have to call out the Firehouse for my number 21. This track is amazing. It's got a great groove to it, and of course, all the elements of classic Kiss from their self-titled debut. Great delivery by Paul Stanley. Just a song I never get tired of hearing. Breaking into the top 20 now, let's go with Strange Ways. Peter Criss on lead vocals here. This track has an absolutely bone-crunching riff to it. Possibly my favorite Kiss riff of all time. Just overpowering and downright doomy for early Kiss, and it's an example of how I think the raw production on Hotter Than Hell actually plays to the strengths of this song. So, great stuff here. Love Peter's vocals, and of course that guitar riff is just incredible. Detroit Rock City flows so well into my number 19 here on the list, King of the Nighttime World from Destroyer. This was probably the first ever Kiss song I had heard, back when I was like 4 years old, but always one of my favorites. Had to put it in the top 20 here. Really memorable stuff from Destroyer, King of the Nighttime World. Speaking of, coming in at number 18, gotta go with Detroit Rock City, also from Destroyer. Another song I've heard to death, but I can't deny its greatness. The iconic album opener here to this record. It makes for a really strong live set opener, even though Deuce is the essential Kiss live set, opener, and nothing touches it in that department, but the chorus is an absolute crowd sing-along, and the dueling guitars in the middle section are incredible. I'm going to go with Goin' Blind, a great Gene Simmons ballad here from Hotter Than Hell that is a bit of a deep cut. Goin' Blind was one of the first examples of Gene showcasing a more melodic, softer vocal delivery, and a song that I think absolutely should have been in Kiss's live set list way more often. I just have one question, and that's Do You Love Me, coming in at number 16 here on the list. Fun lyrics, great crowd sing-along as well, and while Love Gun is my favorite Kiss album, there's absolutely no denying just how stacked Destroyer is with absolute classics. Number 15, Shock Me from Love Gun. Great song here. This is the essential Ace Frehley track. It's a live staple for Ace to this day on his solo tours. The first song I believe Ace ever recorded on lead vocals, and I think I read somewhere that Ace recorded it lying down, so whatever works, I guess. But Shock Me is usually Ace's, shining moment in the concert here, complete with his signature smoking guitar solo. So absolute great stuff here, and no doubt a part of the Ace Frehley legend that inspired so many 70s kids to go ahead and pick up a guitar. Going all the way back to the beginning here from their debut with Nothing to Lose, the part where Peter comes in on the chorus is just one of my favorite parts of any Kiss song ever, and I think the best performance of this track has got to be on their MTV Unplugged with the original four up there with Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick. All six guys. It's just a fantastic version, and this song in general is just classic Kiss sleaze and absolutely one of Peter's best moments on lead vocals. Next up is probably the essential Gene Simmons track track, and that is God of Thunder, coming in at number 13 here from Destroyer. It's definitely the song that best defines the demon character, which was oddly enough written by and for Paul Stanley. But, I think, making Gene perform this song was the right decision ultimately. I've heard Paul Stanley's demo. It's fine. It would have been a fine Paul Stanley song, but it was just made for Gene Simmons to sing. Just a menacing track with an instantly recognizable bass riff, and seeing this performed live at the Final Kiss show with Gene, flying to the top of the arena and spitting the blood and all that stuff was just an experience all in and of itself. So, incredible track here, and again, one of the essential Gene Simmons songs from Destroyer that, even though it was written for Paul Stanley, by and for Paul Stanley, I couldn't imagine anybody singing it on the Destroyer album than Gene Simmons. So, great stuff here, number 13 on the list. To quote Paul Stanley from Kiss Alive, when you're down in the dumps and you need something to bring you up, and there's only one thing that's going to do it the way you want it, and that's cold gin. Nailed it. A great song from their debut album, written by Ace Frehley, sung by Paul Stanley, another live staple, another bona fide classic here from their debut album, coming at number 12 on the list. Even better live with Ace's extended guitar solo, and I guess if you drank, probably a great drinking song as well. Absolute classic here by Kiss from their debut. Number 11 is going to be the title track, Too Hotter Than Hell. Of course, the production on this album is questionable at best, but I love the raw sound of the title track. I think Paul's charismatic vocal delivery here really shines through the flat production, and the riff is amazing as well. We break in now to the top 10 finally. Coming in at number 10, let's go with Strutter, the first Kiss song from their very first album. It's a classic Paul Stanley track, and although it became more demanding on his voice over the years, it all started here with cool lyrics and great Ace Frehley riff. This track set the tone for the rest of their iconic debut album. Number 9, I Stole Your Love. Such a fun, fast-paced rocker of a track to kick off Love Gun. One of my favorite Kiss album openers here, made for a great live set opener on the Love Gun tour as well. Number 8, Rock and Roll All Night, the anthemic track here, and, a live staple, of course, since its release on Dressed to Kill. In my opinion, the best version is from Alive, but I don't think many would argue that this is a quintessential Kiss song, really a defining song for the band here, and, when it comes to, how many times I've heard it, of course, it's been played to death. I've heard it a million times over, but I never get tired of hearing it. Kiss caught lightning in a bottle here, and it's an all-time great rock song, so coming in at number 8, gotta go with Rock and Roll All Night from Dressed to Kill. We're gonna bring out the Doctor for my number 7, gonna go with Calling Dr. Love from Rock and Roll Over, a song inspired by the episode of The Three Stooges where they all pretend to be surgeons. Great episode, but my favorite Gene Simmons song of all time. Maybe unpopular, but I prefer it to God of Thunder, and just think this is a super fun track from Rock and Roll Over, and just an essential from Gene here. So, again, my favorite Gene Simmons song of all time. Gotta go with Calling Dr. Love. Fantastic stuff. Number 6 is going to be Let Me Go Rock and Roll from Hotter Than Hell. In my opinion, this is far and away the best Kiss live song of all time. Always a great showcase for each band member, and a killer example of one of the more complex Kiss songs from the original band. So, when it comes to some of their best compositions here, this has to be right up there at the top. Number 6 on the list, gotta go with Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Top 5 time here, I'm gonna go with Black Diamond from their debut album, one of Peter Criss's signatures in the band's live set. Also a great one performed by Eric Carr years later. The lyrics here are really cool, and despite the poor production on the band's debut, I think Gene's bass sounds awesome in the mix here, and the song builds and builds and builds from the intro by Paul to the bridge as well. Just awesome stuff from beginning to end, and of course, amazing drumming by Peter Criss. Staying with the self-titled debut here for my number 4, we have Deuce, the ultimate Kiss live set opener. The dueling guitar work by Paul and Ace Frehley here defines this track. It's a fast-paced, upbeat song that's the perfect live song in my opinion. The studio version, like every song on their debut, sounds kind of flat, but it's always been one of the highlights of the Kiss live set, so no doubt had to be included in the top 5. Top 3 here, I'm going to go with Love Gun. Amazing title track, my favorite Kiss title track of all time. Instantly recognizable by the drum and guitar intro. The chorus is powerful as well, and it always sounded better with Ace and Peter on backing vocals. I saw the song live at the final concert. It was about 20 feet away from Paul Stanley's platform when he ziplined over the crowd across the arena, and that was legit one of the coolest visuals I've ever seen. So amazing stuff here. Love Gun, always been a favorite of mine, my favorite Kiss album, and this song is one of the all-time best rock title tracks in my opinion. Number 3 on the list. Taking the number 2 spot here, I'm going to go with Parasite from Hotter Than Hell. This is Ace Frehley's finest hour in Kiss in my opinion. Parasite features one of my all-time favorite guitar riffs, just downright thrashy, especially for the mid-70s here. Definitely one of the heaviest Kiss tracks by the original band. I mean, there's some really heavy stuff on Hotter Than Hell. Great work here, and again, that riff from Ace is just phenomenal. Well, we made it. We've covered 96 other songs, and now coming in at number 1, in my opinion, the best Kiss song credited to the original band has got to be She from Dressed to Kill. If you made it all the way to the end of this video and you watched all the way through, thank you so much. My favorite Kiss song here, She. I love so much about this track. It's pretty much everything that classic Kiss really encompasses, you know. A total earworm of a guitar riff, classic Kiss lyricism as well. Everybody in the band gets a chance to shine, and of course, pretty heavy as well for, you know, this version, this early era of the band. So, definitely the best version, I think, of She is from the Midnight Special in 1975, but the version on Live is pretty great too. So, in my opinion, it does not get any better than this. My all-time favorite Kiss song, an absolute classic, and a very underrated track that should be talked about with, you know, some of the best of them, in my opinion. That's got to be She, coming in at number 1 here, closing out the list. So, that wraps up this countdown. All 97 songs credited to the original lineup of Kiss, ranked from worst to best. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel down below. Turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload. And let me know down in the comment section below, what are some of your favorite Kiss songs? You don't have to rank them all, obviously. If you want to, go ahead. But just give me some of your favorite Kiss songs. I want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.